Hello pipe community, Barepipe here. I was going to tell you the story of Stanwell pipes today, but John David Cole got in there right before me and on the Country Squire Radio just told that story a few days ago and posted it on YouTube, so I'm not going to repeat it because there's an easy spot to go and find it. I'm just going to point you to his video in the notes below. But I do want to still tell you about some things about Stanwell, and more specifically about the Sixten relationship, because I'm in the process of an attempt to collect one example of each of the Sixten designs that was done. Sixten Ivarsson or Ivarsson was the granddaddy of the Danish style of pipe making. He was a custom pipe maker who came onto the scene roughly at the same time that Stanwell came into being, and the two cooperated. Stanwell as a factory and Sixten as a pipe designer. He designed some pipes for them. They gave him access to some of their equipment that he didn't have in his workshop, and it was a cooperation that lasted for years. In fact, it's lasted for 3 generations. Sixten's son and granddaughter did pipe designs, and his granddaughter still does pipe designs today for Stanwell. Now, Sixten designed 51 pipe shapes for Stanwell, starting with number 01. In fact, he did 2 01 designs for them. The last one he did was Pipe of the Year in 1993, towards the end of his life. Now, out of all the Sixten designs, there are 3 of them that stands out for me as iconically Stanwell. It would be shape 19, it would be shape 35, and shape 86. And then the other range of Stanwell pipes that in my mind is iconically Stanwell is the Hans Christian Andersen pipes, and I have an example of that I will show you as well. Now, in the video, I go through the pipes I have that was done by Sixten, go through the Hans Christian Andersen pipe, as well as the pipes that's on my bench that are Stanwell pipes that I haven't worked on yet. The idea was I was going to do one of those, but something else happened that came as a bit of a surprise this week. Yesterday, my wife gave me this pipe. And this is the iconic shape 35 that Sixten did for Stanwell. And she bought this pipe from smokingpipes.com as an estate pipe, surprised me with it, blew me away because she couldn't have picked a better pipe. This is the ultimate pipe for me to have found to represent Stanwell's cooperation with Sixten. Sixten was famous for the bent egg shape. He actually came up with the egg shape as a design form. It's quintessentially Scandinavian and Danish, and it's also quintessentially Sixten. And this was, in my mind, the best example of a bent egg that he ever did for Stanwell. And what's even better about this pipe is that the one that my wife bought me comes in the military mount style, which is this kind of little break here in the design of the stem. In my mind, it's a much more elegant look than the traditional stem, which you can also get on the shape 35. This one, to me, is the one that really speaks to me. So I'm really happy about this, and I'm going to add this at the end of the video. I'm going to walk through this pipe with you and show you what I'm going to do, because this is my next project. To start with, let me show you my favorite pipe. This is my favorite pipe of all the pipes that I own, and the reason will be apparent in a second. This is a straight grain Stanwell. It is a shape 19, which is a shape that was designed by Sixten Ivarsson, and you can see the classic Danish lines on this, and it has the brass logo that's inset into the stem. I picked this pipe up in an estate sale. It was in very good condition. I had barely anything that I needed to do to it other than buff it up a little bit. It was in fantastic shape. But I couldn't find any information about straight grains. This is not something that you see in any catalogs from Stanwell. The term straight grain doesn't appear. So I ended up writing to the factory to Standard Tobacco Group in Denmark to ask them about it. And their international brand manager, Hans Hansen, actually replied and looked into it for me a bit. And he came back with some interesting information. He said that firstly, the pipe is from before 2006 because of the fact that it has the brass inset logo, which they stopped using in 2006. So that's some clue. It's also, it doesn't have the registration marking on it. So it's after the 1970s. So that places it very accurately within about 30 years in terms of knowing when the pipe was made. But the real interesting thing about this pipe is the fact that the straight grain is an off-catalog nomenclature. Only about 1 to 2% of the briar that comes into the factory is good enough to be a straight grain. And you can see why, because, you know, look at the beautiful grain that this pipe has. And he said what they do is when they have a really, really exceptional piece of briar come in, they'll set it aside and they will hand select the shape to go with that piece of briar, cut it, shape it, and then put it out in the market with a straight grain stamping. So it's not a common stamping that you're going to find. In fact, this is the only one I've ever seen, and I'm quite a Stanwell fan. So at one point I had these kind of ideas that I would collect all the Sixten shapes in straight grains. Truth is, it's probably impossible to do because it's unlikely that you're going to be able to find all the shapes that Sixten Ivarsson did in straight grains. Currently, the highest grade nomenclature that you can get on a Stanwell is probably the flame grain. And that was a little more commonly, and that's an on-catalog shape. So this is my favorite pipe. I've never smoked it. I'm really just keeping it because it has a special story behind it, and it's a beautiful and special pipe. But it's not the only Sixten pipe that I own. I also have this guy, which is a shape 75. Let me just push this one over to the side a bit here. This is a shape 75. You can see it's a Canadian. It has the unique thing that the bowl is maybe just ever so slightly canted forward, if you look very carefully. It has a beautiful cross grain on it. You can see there's the perfect cross grain there, and at the back end of the pipe here as well, and then bird's eye, very fine bird's eye on both sides. The staining on the pipe doesn't do it justice. It doesn't bring out the grain to the extent that it can, but I have not refinished it because this is the original stain that it came with. This is a pipe that I bought at E1 Reese about a year ago when I visited them in Chicago, and for that reason is quite special. It is a registration era handmade pipe, which means it was a higher grade pipe, and it also means that it was made somewhere between 1948 and the early 70s. I have two more pipes that are Sixten Ivarsson shapes. I have this guy, which is a shape 21. This is a 321, and Stanwell often does this. They'll often put an additional number in front of the shape, so you can get a 721 or a 321. It often denotes something unique about that particular pipe. I don't know what the 3 denotes in this one. This one is not a very high grade one. It is it's a Royal Briar, and it's also a registration era, so it's somewhere in the same time frame as this one, 48 to early 70s, but you can see it's in pretty bad shape. Very heavily caked with lava and with cake inside the bowl, and stem is pretty badly oxidized. It's quite badly dinged up, so this is going to need quite a bit of work to bring it back to life. It's a big chunky pipe though. And then the last one that I have, and I'm just going to move this one aside because I'm running out of space, is this shape 70. This is a classic Stanwell shape, very popular shape, but very difficult to get. So if you can find one of these, go for it, because they are pretty rare. Again, a Sixten pipe. So I have 4 Sixten Ivarsson shapes, 2 of them that needs restoration. This one doesn't have a lot of work to do. Need to restore this logo a little bit. Need to take care of a bit of blackening on the rim. Needs a good buffing. And it's got a hand-cut stem. It's a handmade, so it's a higher grade pipe, registration era. So really from the same quality and class as the Canadian. I do have 2 more Stanwell pipes. As you can see, I love my Stanwells. I have the Hans Christian Andersen. This was actually the first Stanwell that I got. My wife bought this for me for my 30th birthday. And it's a very special pipe for that reason. I have smoked this quite a lot, and I'm very fond of it. I often actually smoke it with the church warden stem instead of the short one, but definitely a pipe that I love. And then lastly, I have a bit of an oddball Stanwell. This is a Stanwell rusticated bent pipe. It's a Tivoli. Tivoli is a park in Denmark, an amusement park, very famous one, a very big amusement park. And this is named after the amusement park. It's a bit of a workhorse pipe. It's quite chunky. It's relatively heavy. You can see this almost like a workshop pipe, I think. And even though, again, I haven't seen the Tivoli as a name range in a catalog, what I have read is somebody who said that Stanwell has a stand at the Tivoli amusement park, and they sell these pipes at the amusement park with the special stamping that says Tivoli. So I suspect that's what this one is, although I've only read that from one person on the internet, so I don't know if that is the truth or not. Either way, it's a nice looking pipe, and I'm looking forward to cleaning up this one and fixing it as well. Now, on to the pipe that I will be working on next, which is this one, shape 35. The bent egg. And isn't this just a gorgeous looking shape? It has this lovely bird's eye grain on one side, some horizontal grain running through on 2 sides, and then some more bird's eye down on this side. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but that's to be expected because of the fact that this pipe was actually cut in a factory and wasn't made by Sixten. The shape was made by Sixten, and therefore you don't have the full Danish alignment of grain with shape that you would get in a handmade pipe. That was pretty rare. This pipe does have the registration number on it, so it was done somewhere between 1948 and 1970 roughly. And it was called Design Choice, which I still need to look up. I need to go and see what that is about. Like I say, I've only had this pipe for a day, so I haven't done a lot of research on it yet. Now, a few things that needs to be done. There's a couple of bite marks on the stem that I'm going to fill in. The logo is still there, but it is somewhat rounded in the edges, so I'm not going to try and put color back into it because I don't think it's going to take it consistently. The edges are just a bit too rounded off. The biggest problem on the pipe is actually the condition of the edge of this really delicate bowl. Somebody nicked it on this side here with something, so it's got a bit of unevenness there that I'm going to have to sand out and restore. So I'm going to have to be really careful when I do that so that I don't change the shape of this by any huge amount. And it's so little that I think it's perfectly doable without actually losing any of the shape of the pipe. There's also a few dents that needs to be steamed out. There's a fairly big dent here where somebody pressed something into it. And there's a few dings and scratches on this end here that needs to be worked on. And other than that, there's a bit of discoloration of the stain here in comparison with that side. So I will be sanding down this bowl to be able to even out the stain. And I will probably reinstate a little bit of the contrast stain that's on it, but I'm not going to change the color substantially. I want to try and bring it back as close as I can to the original because this is a collector's piece as far as I'm concerned. So that's basically what I need to do in this pipe. It's not a lot. It'll be a fairly short and quick project, but it'll be a fun one because it is such a beautiful pipe. I'm really excited about this. So that's the next project.